start again. Hello, my darling hearts. It's GAPS coach Emma here, and I am joined today by the wonderful Clive de Carle. Thanks so much for joining me, Clive.
Thank you, Emma. Great privilege to be on your show. Thank you.
And how are you today?
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you.
Great. Clive, I've been noticing, because I'm a member of, well, I'm not a member of your Secret Health Club, which I should be.
Yes.
But I am on your mailing list, and you've recently been sharing about some interesting devices, and I managed to get my hands on one of them. It's here, look. And I'm very excited by it, if not a little intimidated, because it's an electronic device. And I'm wondering if you could describe it to people and tell people what it's all about a little bit.
Well, sure. In the 1880s, Tesla at his lab noticed that people who were just coming in, visitors, workers, if they had aches and pains, for instance, that almost immediately the aches and pains went away. And he realized it was the high frequencies that were being created in his lab that were doing it. So by 1891, he was experimenting with glass vacuum tubes like the one that you had there. And that glass is probably had the air evacuated, so it's now 1/5000th of air pressure, so negative vacuum. And they, depending on which gas is in there, they tend to glow violet if it's argon that's in there, and yours will be glowing violet primarily, I expect.
It does, yes.
Yeah. And so what's happening is that these devices create a plasma, and you will have seen when you turn it on, you can actually see the plasma, the violet colored plasma going up the tube and into the body.
Yeah, and I've seen little gizmos being sold at Christmas time in the shops, you know, pappy Christmas gifts of a globe thing with little ziggly zaggy electrical fibers sort of playing around on it. Is that a similar thing?
Probably not. But the Chinese sell these devices now for like £50 or something like that. And they're all right for cosmetic purposes. But for the therapeutic purposes that a machine like yours was originally made for, the cheap Chinese ones are a different technology and are not going to work.
Cut the mustard. They're not going to cut the mustard.
But you see, by the turn of the last century, these devices were common. Doctors were using them. I've got, I think I've put it away, but I'm reading currently a book from 1915 called High Frequency Manual, where they, by 1915, there were lots of devices being built and sold all over the world. And it was normal for a doctor, particularly if they were traveling around, to take a battery and a machine with them. And then people started buying them for home use, because if you were a long way from the nearest medical place, well, if you had your own way to fix yourself, that would be great. So by 1915, dentists were using them commonly because
really?
of the,
in the mouth?
Yes.
Literally. I'm scared to death. There's a treatment thing here that I think is supposed to be for further dental treatments.
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Not that. Look, it looks really scary.
Yes, well, it is scary. If you used it like that, you would seriously damage your skin.
Crikey, yes. Well, I daren't go near that one. The only one I dare use is this one. Because it sort of spreads the...
Yes, that one's perfectly safe. With the one with the wire sticking out, the wire is sticking out much too far. There's that top bit, if the rubber is fresh, will slide up and down to release or cover up.
Oh, yes.
It's working.
Yes.
And so if somebody had a spot or a wart,
oh yeah,
what you'd do is you'd hold it right above the surface, and you might turn it on for a second or two, and a bolt of lightning will come out. And it will, you hold it a little bit away from the wart or the spot.
Yes.
And after a second or two, the top of the wart is likely to go white and will drop off after a few days. And a spot may hasten its eruption and recovery. it's not an electrode I particularly recommend or use.
I'm scared to death of that one.
But back in the day, almost every set came with that one as standard.
Yeah. And what about that one, look, with a little brush on the end?
Yes, that's for nerve damage. So if you put that one in and did it on your skin at a low power, you begin to feel it, and lots of little tiny sparks would be coming out,
Yeah.
as many as there are little brushes there.
Yeah.
Let's say you did it over thick clothing, then sparks would jump the thickness of the clothing you're going through. So the thicker the clothing, the more a spark will jump. So back in the day, if somebody, let's say they'd lost the feeling in their arm, right? Can't feel it. So you get a couple of thick towels or a thick towel, and then turn that up full and do it over the thick towel. Right. It's going to hurt like hell, but not if you can't feel anything. And I've had people who've not felt bits of their body for like 10, 20 years suddenly go, wow, as it comes back. So what the device that you have is like a cellular recuperator. These devices do many things at once. What they are two resonating Tesla coils, which are tuned to one another for the resonance. So unlike many more modern machines, like Rife machines, where you tune it to all the individual frequencies you want and adjust it, fine tune it, Tesla was much cleverer than that. And his devices run across all frequencies up to 500 billion or so, because violet has a very, very high frequency. So you've got many things going on. When it touches the skin or is near to the skin, you're creating ozone. So many people with eczema psoriasis use it for a skin treatment. Obviously, if you've got eczema psoriasis, that person is probably poisoning themselves by eating bad food, or it's bad water, or they've got nutrient deficiency, so their skin isn't repairing. So, but aside from that, back in the day, again, they would use it for that. They're anti-parasite, right? So anyway, you use it, parasites hate it and are likely to leave. So if you did it on your inside of your wrist with the big mushroom shape, for instance, blood-borne parasites are probably not going to stand much of a chance. And similarly, if there was somebody being injected with something nasty, then it might be a reasonably good thing if there was something self-replicating running around the bloodstream, again, to hit it with the highest frequency you can tolerate. And most of the blood goes through the wrist every couple of minutes or so.
Yes.
Zap the hell out of it.
Excellent. That's an interesting use. That's fabulous to know about that. Just one more question. This one fascinated me. Look at that. It's like it's a little tube, and it's got a little puffer. And this looks as though it would fit up your nostrils, but I daren't put it anywhere near my face. I'm absolutely petrified of it. What do you make of that?
There's a very, very specific way to use it. What it is an ozone generator.
Right.
And what you do, if you just pull off the cork at the top, wiggle it, yeah. Now, if you look inside the cork, you'll see there's a hole.
Yes.
And so you turn it upside down, and then you put half a dozen drops of eucalyptus essential oil in the cotton wool.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Then you pop it back on again. Now you put the whole unit in the handle. Do you want to do that?
Yes. There we go.
Okay, so now what you do, you hold the handle, you always hold it in the metal bit. You don't want to go up too high. Now, you can probably fit the squeezy thing in your right hand as well, can you?
Oh, yes, you can, yes.
Okay, so now what I want you to do is with your hand, grip the glass. No, lower down.
Grip here.
Yeah, but now let me get one and just show you what I mean.
Fascinating technology. Absolutely fascinating technology. What fun.
Okay, so here's a different version of the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what I want you to do is with a few fingers, hold it here, not down the bottom, as far away from the join where the black plastic is as possible.
Okay.
Okay, because if you touch it near where the join is, you can get a sharp spark coming out. So you always want to hold it down the bottom on the handle. So now you rest it not in your nose, but just below it on your top lip. That's it. Now what you do is you turn the machine on, preferably to full. While you got to be touching this while you're doing it.
I have to be touching the glass.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now you're making a circuit.
I see.
And so now you could take 5 deep breaths through your nose and exhale through the mouth. That's it, 5 deep breaths. And if somebody's got a lung, bacterial infection of the lung or the throat, there's a good, you squeeze that as well.
To
so
push
breath, big squeeze to push the ozone that's being generated up into your nose.
As you squeeze it, you'll be breathe in.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Breathe it in, hold it, breathe it out through the mouth.
Just 5 deep breaths, and that's enough to get the ozone and the eucalyptus into the upper respiratory.
That's the maximum amount you want to be safe using air. I've got an ozone generator that uses oxygen, and then I bubble it through a liter of olive oil.
Oh yeah.
And that way you can breathe as much as you like.
So what do you think about these hydrogen creating machines that people are talking about?
Well,
and I'm not talking about Brown's gas. I'm talking about literally sort of pure hydrogen. And it was from Santos Bonacci. I got this. He was interviewing somebody, and he had a little thing, and he was breathing in this hydrogen. He said it's made him put on. He's been on a completely fruit and veg diet, but he's managed to put on over 5 kilos recently, just with the hydrogen. What do you make of that?
Well, I've got a hydrogen machine on my website, but it's actually a hydroxy rather than hydrogen. And what you, Emma, your viewers, what are you? Well, you're outnumbered 10-1 by bacteria. You're human cells versus bacteria, right? But what really are you? Well, we're mainly water. H2O.
Yes, we're H2O, which is oxygen and hydrogen.
So you are mainly
60% hydrogen.
You are mainly hydrogen.
Yeah. So we should be able to walk through walls.
Well, or float above them.
Waft about.
But of course, if you're 60% hydrogen and 30% oxygen, or whatever the numbers are, that's highly flammable. You want to stay away from, and then sodium, so we're mainly water. You put sodium into water, it explodes, right, in flames. Potassium explodes in flames. Magnesium, you set fire to that and it burns.
Yes, I remember that from chemistry.
It's amazing you haven't self-combusted by now.
Yes, what's that all about?
But it shows the power of minerals, doesn't it? And the power of hydrogen. So if you get more hydrogen, many people have found huge benefits from hydrogen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you come across Crow. He's a radio show host.
Crow 777.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he was telling me the other day, because we did an interview, that he'd used the hydroxy machine for his mum, and she'd basically the machine got her talking again.
Wonderful.
Because she's got dementia in a big, heavy way. Can't remember quite the story, but amazing results in an hour or so. There are several, on my Secret Health Club website, there are several videos of Parkinson's patients who within short time of breathing hydrogen or hydroxy stop shaking.
Right.
And it might last for about 3 hours or something, then they need to breathe it a bit more. So it shows the power of hydrogen is incredible.
Incredible. And so we're electric, we're made of combustible minerals. And what about light? The light. So I mean, there's the ray, that electric from the Tesla
device
you were telling me about.
Yeah.
But what about infrared, which is the opposite end of the spectrum, I suppose, isn't it?
Yes, quite.
But that also can help a lot with.
Oh, absolutely. So let me just rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
With the hydrogen devices or the hydroxy devices, there are lots of them out there, and some are good and some are bad. And the one I use, the problem with it is you've got to regularly look after it and change the fluids and clean it.
Right.
And if you don't do that, then you're risking your health.
Okay.
So if you happen to be careless or lazy,
don't bother with that one then.
Well, research, because there are machines and there are machines, and the rivalry between different manufacturers is intense. Each company seems to insist that the other company, their equipment, you'll just die. And so infrared. Well, I've got a couple of infrared things on my desk. I've got this little laser device, which you can buy laser devices for big chunks of money, thousands of pounds. This one I think is 300 or something. Then there's one that's about 100 and something, which is this one. Let's turn it on. Okay. So this is sort of a watch you wear on the inside of your wrist, and this also has lasers.
No.
And you can also, there's also an attachment, for instance, which they use for people with Alzheimer's, where you plug this in, you clip it in, and you shine
up your nose,
up your nose, straight into the brain, just where the PCR test was shoved, So, and something like this again is anti-parasite. It will clean the blood, and if you've got clean blood, well, then you're going to repair better. And
will we find those gadgets and gizmos on your Secret Health Club?
They are, yes.
Yeah.
With the Tesla,
and you've done the research and you've tried them out yourself.
Well, they're on my desk because I used them.
I'd love them.
The Tesla device is by far and away my favorite. And over the years, I've now got about half a dozen people worldwide who hunt them down, and then another half a dozen people who know how to restore them properly. Because you're buying, however old it is, conceivably a 100-year-old piece of kit. You want to be careful. And prior to the Second World War, electrical safety was something else. Even I'm 68. When I was young, round at my grandparents' house, I was fully aware that you had to be really careful around fires, and because you might zap yourself, because they didn't plug, these days you plug it into the wall and everything's fine. With like 1920s machine, you plug it in the wall and now you've got two pins that are live.
Yeah, right.
So you need to plug those into the machine before you plug it into the wall. And your machine may well be like that,
Yeah, I make sure I plug it all in before I'm very wary of it. So thanks for all those wonderful explanations. That's so interesting. Last time we spoke, which was a couple of years ago, you were mentioning type 1 diabetes, and to the end of our call you said, let me know if you find out anything about type 1 diabetes, Emma. So I've been working with a few people with type 1 diabetes recently, right. And we went no plant gaps, completely no plants, which sounds really extreme. And because of the programming and all of the got to get your 5 a day and the freshness of the fruits and the vegetables and the live water in the live fruits and vegetables, and everyone's really programmed to expect fruits and vegetables to be the thing that's going to heal. Whereas we found with this, she was very young, 6 years old, and fell into acidosis and was rushed into hospital, and they saved her, brought her back to levels, and put a little sensor in her leg to check for insulin, which then talks to her mother's phone, so she's linked up to the machine. But that did give us data every day recorded, and it was only 3 weeks after that incident that her mum went quite hardcore gaps, not even no plant gaps, she just went gaps. And for all of my listeners, they'll know that GAPS is gut and psychology syndrome, which is Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride's nutritional protocol, which excludes all grains, all refined vegetable oils, and all sugars except for honey, and some dried fruits occasionally, but you don't have to go there. But anyway, so we had all the numbers, and she was coming down to from 6 injections a day of insulin to sometimes only 1.
How long did she have the type 1? Because you get a 3-month honeymoon period where you can reverse it. I wonder, was she past that honeymoon period and
Right,
still
no,
within it?
I think she was still within it, and I think if her dad had been on board, we would have cracked it. But unfortunately, he didn't believe. He wasn't a
Oh.
believer.
Hmm.
So it's such a shame. So have you ever heard of anyone coming back after that 3-month honeymoon period?
There are people who claim to have done it.
Right.
I've never actually met one.
Yeah, no, I haven't either. And I wonder whether it's I know they say it's your pancreas basically shutting down, and once those little cells in your pancreas have shut down, that's it. That's it.
The islets of Langerhorn.
That's an interesting name, isn't it? I wonder what the spellings behind that are. There must be some etymology in there somewhere, because all of these medical terms have etymological sort of interesting sources, interesting roots. And anyway, I wonder if it's something viral. I wonder if it's a viral something that we have to.
Well, I can tell you what knocked my pancreas out. It was an antibiotic.
Right.
That's what caused my rheumatoid arthritis at the time, and type 1 diabetes and the rest of it.
Right. And how are you feeling now?
Still got type 1 diabetes, but I haven't had arthritis for 37 years.
That's pretty good.
I feel fine. Yeah, I feel good.
Yeah. Okay, great. So there's a couple of other things I wanted to talk to you about, which I've jotted down. One is these footpad things. I wanted to run these by you. Have you heard of these things? These they're from China, or I think they originated in somewhere in the East.
But the Japanese are very fond of pulling things out through your feet.
Yeah,
I've not seen that make, but there's some interesting things you can do with the feet for pulling stuff out. Dr. Klinghart recommends a particular type of ionic foot bath, where most people put their feet in and it changes color as stuff comes out. But my friend Stefan is in the middle of making Tony Pantalaresco's anti-nano bucket. And I know loads of people using that and say they're getting all sorts of weird stuff coming out, little triangular things and, morgellons on steroids by the sounds of it. Sounds ghastly. So he's sending me one and I'm going to try it myself.
You're going to have a go with that as well. I kind of think that people who are built of really strong stuff. So for instance, I've been aware of, the food as the medicine for 15 years now, and been sourcing pasture raised animal meats and fats and eggs that are not fed on soy or GMOs or, and I've been avoiding all the starchy carbs, and I've been fermenting my food. So I've been getting fermented dairy over 24 hours, which then of course pre-digests all the lactose and gives you a food that's high in fat and full of probiotics and humming with enzymes, which is really what if we were eating live foods all day long, they've got an electrical charge, they've got, they're excitable, that, if we were just eating live foods full of enzymes, fermented foods, raw steak, raw eggs, raw dairy, we'd all be looking a lot more sprightly and bushy tailed.
Quite so.
I lost my thread. What were we talking about? We were talking about oh no, it's pulling things out through the feet. That's right.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah, we were talking about pulling things out through the feet. We suggest taking Epsom salt baths, hot salt baths. That gets your electrolytes going. But I like the sound of this. So let me just finish talking about this, and then I want to talk about the Tony Pantalaresco's anti-nano bucket. So the ingredients for this, it says, are bamboo vinegar and wood vinegar, which I wonder actually if they're meaning it's DMSO, because that's a kind of wood vinegar, isn't it? DMSO.
I've never heard DMSO described as vinegar, so I don't know.
Okay. And it's got some kind of plant powder. That's not very specific. I think it's a mushroom powder, vitamin C, and it says -ion. So how on earth they got a minus ion into it, I don't know. But they're white, and you stick them on with a sticky plaster onto the sole of your feet and sleep for 8 hours. When you wake up in the morning, they're black. And I don't know if that's because it doesn't say charcoal in it. It just says bamboo vinegar, wood vinegar. Anyway, I tried them for the last couple of nights and I felt very amazing and slept like an absolute log. But I'm wondering if they do something that might tax your kidneys or something. I'm trying to find out somebody who knows more about them so I can ask some questions about it, basically.
Yeah, no, it's not me. I don't
Not
know.
you. Okay, never mind.
Dr. Klinghart, have you contacted Dietrich Klinghart?
Oh, I would love to contact Dietrich Klinghart because he's just a bit like you, Clive. One of my heroes. I remember listening to him telling us about a gentleman who offered himself up as a guinea pig to be measured as he died for the photons of light. So they had a photon measuring machine. And he said, measure me. I'm going to die, so just measure me. So on the graph, it went, the weeks leading up to his death, the days leading up to his death. And then on the day he died, the photons went off the scale. And it was a kind of a confirmation that we are the light. And when you die, the light leaves you and you go back to the light. When I told my 18-year-old daughter that, she welled up. She just welled up immediately. And so it was like, oh my God, it's real. It was such a wonderful feeling. So I love Dr. Klinghart. I don't know if I could dare to contact him. It's just he's a bit too, I don't know. Would he talk to a lowly GAPS coach like me?
Well, why not?
Why not? I suppose I have some good questions lined up for him. So tell me about the anti-nano bucket. That sounds exciting. Everyone should know by now, let me just set the scene in case anybody doesn't, that we've been being sprayed like lab rats for decades. And more recently, there's been evidence to suggest that within what we're being sprayed via the geoengineering stuff that's going on in the sky, and in our foods and whatnot, are tiny little nanoparticulates. And if you read, the literature, you'll find that they are amazing technology that can self-replicate and, grow itself and supposedly fulfill functions within the body to help with medical delivery, drug delivery, or I don't know, whatever, who knows, but we're all being experimented on and it's in all of us, kind of whether you like it or not. And I think if you're built of really, really strong stuff, your body can, to a degree, get rid of it. But as like when you're built of really strong stuff, that's what was my point that I forgot to say earlier. We're built of strong stuff because we've been practicing GAPS for long enough. Our bodies are actually springy, boingy, built of collagen and gelatin, and we're grounded, and the EMF frequencies and the bombardment with the nanotech, actually we're coping with it maybe a little bit better because we're resilient. Our gut microbes are diverse, therefore we're adaptable. So we're able to excrete some of this rubbish maybe a little bit easier, and because we're focused on detox baths, saunas, all the rest of it. So everyone's a bit contaminated with the poisons and the nano, and this is why we have to detox daily and eat correctly. But there are tools that we can use, like the ones we've just been describing, to help us. And another one we'd like to introduce to you, this for my listeners who probably don't know, is Tony Pantalleresco's anti-nano bucket. Do you want to describe it?
I first heard Tony talking about it, I don't know, a decade or so ago, maybe.
Wow, I'm so behind the times.
And he was showing you how to make them, and it's pretty simple. You get sort of copper wire and make a coil around a bucket, basically. People are now making them using those sort of cold boxes that you can get, rectangular cold boxes for you to fit your feet in. And I've not actually tried it, and I've not hugely looked into the technology either. But one of the chaps who restores the Tesla devices for me, he's very keen and is teaching people and providing really good ones. but again, you can watch Tony's videos and
I think I
make
know
them
who
yourself.
that is. I think that's lovely. That's Zeesh, isn't it? I think, and I've got his contact details. So if anybody wants to get hold of a bucket, we could put you in touch.
Yeah, no, Zeesh is in the process of learning from the guy that I mentioned.
Okay, all right. So we know people who can help.
Yeah, so Zeesh is making them. Whether he's quite mastered it yet, I haven't tried one, so I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, but lots of people are waking up to the fact that actually it works. The technology works, and we're all poisoned, whether, as you say, whether we like it or not. So we might as well fix it.
Absolutely, we've got nothing to lose. Well, I say nothing to lose. Putting your feet in a bucket of liquid with a copper coil coiled around it, with electricity going through it. Yeah, what's that going to do to you?
Well, it should do fantastic things. I mean, what you're doing is you're pumping electrons into the body, which is what that Tesla device does. You pump electrons into the cells of the body, and they go back to normal. It doesn't matter whether it's a chronic condition of 20 years, you've been in pain for 20 years. You put electrons in and bam, it can fix it. And this is a concept that's been lost.
I so wish I had concentrated in physics and chemistry when I was at school, but now I'm really into physics and chemistry. But I want to know the difference between an electron and a photon.
Well, that's easy. That Tesla device is creating photons because you can see them. Photons are light. You might need a sensitive instrument to see them, or your sensitive instrument of eyes can see photons. But electrons are what you get when you exercise. You exercise, you create electrons, and our cells are powered by electrons. We're meant to be barefoot in the sunshine, if there was any. Barefoot, you get electrons from the planet.
Yeah.
Take vitamin C, or any decent antioxidant, glutathione, or whatever it is, and you're creating masses of electrons. So why a lot of these devices work, particularly the one you just showed, is because you're getting thousands of times more electrons than you could possibly get any other way.
And we are electric.
Right, so.
Yeah.
And it's giving Tesla, when asked how to describe his inventions, it was like you're getting an electrical shower. You're literally washing the cells with energy.
And the other day, I saw somebody had posted in the Rudolf Steiner page about the heart being a vortex to put spin on the blood so that it got charged.
Yeah, well, that could be right. And of course, people think the heart is what's pumping the blood, but actually all the arteries are pumped.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so exciting. Are you aware of that chap, Jerry Tennant? Because he wrote a book ages ago called Healing is Voltage. And that's what we're talking about here, aren't we?
So I went to, when I was in ophthalmic optics years ago, I went to Houston, where he was giving a talk at one.
That's right, because he was an optician. He was an ophthalmic specialist.
He was an ophthalmologist.
Ophthalmologist.
Yeah. And so I was at that point working with contact lenses, and I had a company selling the latest ophthalmic microscopes and instruments and stuff. So I went to hear him because he was at the forefront of laser eye surgery at the time.
This was in the 80s, was it? No.
Yes, would have been the 80s,
yeah, right.
Maybe late 70s. And he massively regretted his whole work with lasers.
Did he now?
Yes, for several reasons. One is that he didn't realize that by doing laser surgery on somebody who had an infection in their eye, that he might get the infection. He was out for 7 years. He could only think for maybe 1 or 2 hours a day. And the rest of the day he was lost.
I read that. And anyone would have thought that I'm lost. That's it. It's lost. I'm lost. It's curtains for me. I can focus for an hour a day. What's the point of going on? But he used that hour a day to put his mind to survival, which is all you can do, I suppose.
And he realized that what he needed, amongst other things, was frequency. So he bought, I've got one on my desk somewhere, yeah. He found out about this. This is the Russian scanar, otherwise known in England as a pain genie, And he treated himself with microcurrent, and he also figured out the acid alkali thing. He realized that pH is voltage, so healing is voltage, as you said the name of his book, or books. He's got several books. And so what does pH stand for? You know, it's the acid alkali ratio.
Potential hydrogen, is it?
Correct.
Right, and that's what we were talking about at the beginning with the hydrogen machine.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. So pH is potential hydrogen. And so I interviewed Jerry over 10 years ago, and super interesting guy, super interesting. And there's this huge confusion about acid and alkali.
Yeah.
Should we be running alkaline bodies? Should we be drinking alkaline water? And the answer is basically sort of yes, but basically no, because there are certain conditions when we need acidity in parts of the body and others where we need alkalinity.
Yeah, right.
And the idea that we should be testing our urine all the time is, I think, misguided. The idea, because there's one school of thought which says you should wake up in the morning and have something acid, like big squeeze of lemon in water, because that's good for you. There's another school of thought which says, no, it's not. That's the worst thing it gets pretty confusing. I
have to confess, I really love to have a lemon drink in the morning, and I like to have a lemon drink with eggshell citrate in it before I go to sleep. And I think that really helps with people who have oxalate issues. Oxalates are a plant toxin, a crystal. They're in potatoes, peanuts, spinach, chocolate. So what's on every checkout of every shop in the whole of England? Chocolate and crisps. You know, we love them, we eat them all day long, and we're getting topped up with oxalates, which are these crystals that can give you kidney stones, they give you joint pain, they can give you migraines, they can, you know, give you wherever your weakness lies. If you're susceptible and you don't excrete them, we can excrete about 50 milligrams a day, but if you don't excrete them and you're having an almond milk, peanut butter, raw spinach smoothie every day, you'd be off the scale with oxalates. And the citrates, magnesium citrate, calcium citrate, help us to bind onto them and get them out. And I think
quite. A friend of mine who's a health consultant in America, he decided to go on an oxalate-rich diet without realizing he was doing it. So
lots of keto people do that. Yeah.
Loads of kale, loads of spinach, loads of nuts, loads of seeds. Yeah. And I remember having lunch with him one day, and I'm eating what I think is a normal lunch, and he's got this pile of greenery. You know, are you a herbivore? You know, what's going on with all this greenery? Anyway, so he really went for it for 2 weeks, ended up in hospital with kidney stones.
There you go.
2 weeks.
That's what I'm saying. It's dangerous. It's actually people are, you know, charging themselves with what they think is an electrolyte drink full of vegetables and it's going to vitalize me. I'm going on a juice cleanse or whatever. And yes, as you say, ending up with kidney stones or prickly feet. I know some people, they feel as though they're walking on glass. It's the oxalate crystals building up in their feet. But you can soak your feet in vinegar, and that does help. And that's why I'm wondering about these foot pads I was telling you about.
Yeah, maybe it's the vinegar.
Yeah, maybe. I think the vinegar and the citrate, I think it's a good idea to sip on a bit of cider vinegar every day. Anyway, your stomach's supposed to be 2 pH, which is super duper hyper acid, isn't it? And I think, you know, women's mucosal membranes are supposed to be at an acid. We're not supposed to be completely alkaline. And your blood goes to great lengths to keep itself at 7, doesn't it?
Well, exactly. And the guy who invented the ionic water machines, the one that give you the alkaline water, the Japanese scientist who invented them, he changed his mind and said, no, it's hydrogen. Sorry, I made a mistake.
Right.
It's hydrogen.
It's like Louis Pasteur on his deathbed going, no, not germ theory. I'm sorry, I got it all wrong. Sorry, don't pasteurize everything. Too late.
Yes, quite so. There's, have you ever looked into proteolytic enzymes?
No, that sounds exciting. Is that like serrapeptase? Is it systemic
Exactly.
enzymes? Right,
Exactly.
yes, because I've been really concerned about the lectin thing and the plant toxins causing the sticky proteins to make the amyloid plaques, and that's what dementia and you know, Alzheimer's is all about.
Yeah.
And the lectins stick to your protein, your enzyme, your hormone receptors. So the leptin, for instance, which is the hormone of being satiated. If you're eating a lot of grains and things that are high in lectins, then your leptin receptors get filled up with these sticky proteins, and then you never feel satisfied and you always want to eat more, which was me when I came home from school with 5 bowls of Frosties, you know, watching Why Don't You on the telly. Yeah, I've been really worried about these lectins. So these are proteins, sticky proteins that mess with our hormones. And you're saying these enzymes will help with those or help with something else?
Well, how serrapeptase works, proteolytic enzymes work, is they're protein digesting. So the body can distinguish between the protein that is you and foreign protein. So examples of foreign protein would be cysts, tumors, scar tissue, anything that ends in osis, sclerosis.
Sclerosis, yeah.
Osteoporosis,
right,
multiple sclerosis, fibrosis. So fibrosis.
Is that like fibromyalgia?
Well, no. Well, yes and no. Many people would say that selenium is the answer for most people's fibromyalgia, that's the big thing they're missing, selenium. However, so foreign protein involves all the inflammatory stuff, you know, cancer, heart disease, arthritis, anything ending in an itis is inflammatory, and that leads to pain. So at the end of the day, you want to ideally die quietly in your sleep after having a nice day.
Yeah, aged about 120. That's what I'm aiming for.
Well, if you're setting your sights low. But otherwise, people die of an itis or an osis. So the thing about a proteolytic enzyme is that it fixes itises and osises.
Oh my God, we should all be on it all day long.
Yes. So essentially, most of us have got a certain amount of scar tissue, either from damage or surgery or just our poor nutrition, so we can't repair properly. So you up your nutrition on the lines that you're talking about, and you take a proteolytic enzyme, the fibrosis will disappear and be replaced by normal tissue. People notice that the scars they've had for decades on the outside heal, but they're healing equally on the inside. So that should deal with the scar tissue element. The fibrosis should go away. So that means that the artery is clear. It means calcium, assuming you're taking vitamin K2 as well, or using nano.
Or eating your liver, which has vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin K in perfect ratios.
Well, perfect. That would be ideal. You mentioned earlier calcium, and while, as you know, there's good calcium and bad calcium, assuming one is eating calcium-rich foods, I wouldn't want to put 1 microgram more of calcium in anybody than I was sure they needed, because everybody's low on magnesium, and magnesium balances calcium just like K2 balances calcium. And proteolytic enzymes put everything right, because they stop inflammation, and if you've stopped inflammation, well, therefore you've stopped pain. So a really good way to look at it is young children, right? Young children fall flat on the face all the time. Young children twist their ankle really badly, but 5-10 minutes later, they're up and running around again. Yeah. Whereas you or I did it would take a lot longer than 10 minutes to repair. So why? Why is it? Well, being young, whatever food they have is being fully utilized and assimilated, right? But aside from that, when they're young, their bodies are flooded with proteolytic enzymes.
Right.
They fall over and hurt themselves, and proteolytic enzymes immediately, in seconds, get to work, making sure that the body is repaired properly, not with scar tissue, but properly, makes sure that there's no inflammation, or if it is, it goes red for a moment and then goes back down again. So enough proteolytic enzymes to overcome inflammation, therefore overcome pain, and therefore the child gets up and runs off as if nothing had happened.
That's if they're built of springy stuff. That's if they've got the building blocks.
Well, if mum was healthy when they gave birth and so on.
And before she got pregnant. If mum was already eating her egg yolks and chicken livers and stock and, you know, good fats and ferments, all that. If mummy was doing that before she,
But
any some of the kids, go on, sorry.
I was going to say any prospective mum should be reading Sally Fallon, Tom Cowan's book of traditional
wise traditions.
Yes, wise traditions for childbirth.
The Weston A. Price Foundation, Wise Traditions in Food Farming and the Healing Arts, which is an excellent organization. I heartily recommend everyone to join it because they're doing great work.
Weston Price was the guy who figured out K2, even though it was 1995 when they finally realized that what he'd been talking about was vitamin K2.
Which was what he called factor X, didn't he?
Factor X, yes.
Yeah.
Very
exciting. The factor X, and now they've brought the X factor into everyone's consciousness with that ridiculous program where everyone's singing songs. But that's the important X factor.
Well, quite. And his answer was cod liver oil and spring pasture-raised butter, wasn't it? Those two together.
We can buy butter here. There's a lovely dairy, Berkeley Dairy, and I'm not joking. It is the color of buttercups. This butter is the color of buttercups. It's yellow, bright yellow, almost orangey yellow, you know. Just remarkable. And that's how you know it's full of good stuff if it's not processed, obviously, not food colored. Anyway, so fascinating chatting with you. Do you know any have you got any what's the best brands of the enzymes you're talking about?
Oh, that's easy. That's easy.
It's yours. Have you got one?
How did you guess? Yes, I've got it on the website called Prozyme, for proteolytic enzyme, Prozyme.
Okay, awesome. I'm getting some of that tomorrow. Okay, awesome. And people can find you. Where can they find you, Clive? Well,
I've got two websites. One is secrethealthclub.com, which is a pay-to-join website. But if you pay to join, then you get discounts on the products. So actually, if you want products, then you might as well join the club and do it that way.
Exactly.
And when they started taking my videos down in 2014, I started the Secret Health Club so I could put them back up again.
So ahead of your time.
And by when you're in a club, you can do things that would be illegal outside a club.
Yeah, that's why I've got Timeless Cookery Club as well, so that we can talk about things. Yeah, but unfortunately, we're still on Fastbook. But I am looking for alternative media platforms. Got any hot tips for alternative media platforms?
Well, I've been thrown off YouTube, so and Facebook. I'm shadow banned. So I used to get at one point 10 years ago, some of my videos got like 200,000 views or whatever, and my Facebook posts went to thousands. Now I put out a Facebook post and 6 people read it.
Yeah.
I'm still, they haven't shut me off.
Yeah.
But I'm invisible, basically.
Yeah, the shadow ban.
So I've got a Telegram group, which I'm very, very pleased with.
I find it really hard to navigate Telegram. It really just get confused.
It's a bit annoying to navigate, I agree. Yeah.
So have you looked at Gab?
I have looked at it, and I have asked one of my assistants to consider posting on there. I don't know if we have or not, so probably not. There's too many. That's the problem. Is there are too many outlets?
Yeah, I do think they have got millions on Gab.
Oh, really?
Millions and millions, yeah.
I'll check that out.
They're quite Jesus, they're the God Squad, and it's all about Jesus. And I'm a bit like, does it have to be all about Jesus? Can't it just be a bit about Jesus and then a bit about everything else? But they're very sure thing about that. And another one is Thrive Tribe Hub, which is what's his name?
Is that Procter Gamble?
Foster Gamble, yeah. Foster Gamble, yeah. Who did the Thrive movies?
Yeah.
Which are worth a watch. And the Thrive Tribe Hub started off in January this year, but it's still quite tiny. There's not very many people on it, but it's getting there. It's getting there. Yeah, any ideas for social media outlets, people, put it in the comments, and I will leave Clive's details. You told us about your Secret Health Club and your Telegram group.
Yes, but I've got a website, which is my name with a .com at the end.
Clive de Carle Okay, I'll
You
listen.
can say it like that. Legally, I can't. The
Why?
MHRA wrote to me, and because I was putting out videos that were saying that vitamin C and that naughty disease that everybody's been talking about for the last 2 years. And they got very, very angry about that. And so they actually wrote to me saying, you must not use the words COVID-19, coronavirus, vitamin C, or clivedecard.com. That I'm not allowed to put any of those words together. And of course, I didn't. That was your imagination. You just misheard me.
Absolutely.
I said nothing.
How can they dictate such a thing? I mean, what do they threaten? I've been threatened with an injunction from the High Court for doing things I shouldn't do. How did they threaten you?
Oh, well, the first time back in 2014, it was with a £250,000 fine if I didn't take all my videos down in 24 hours.
Crikey,
I mean, but
that is pure bullying and bad form. Yeah.
bad form, jolly bad form. Yes.
Jolly bad form. Can't we? I mean, I'm just really getting into, equity and common law, empowerthepeople.com. That's an interesting site. And, basically any of your laws, acts or statutes have no jurisdiction over me because I've never signed a contract with you. That's the basic outline of it. If you're willing to stand your ground.
Yes, well, quite. I mean, the only form of law that would be worth considering is equity law. Admiralty and all the other laws, you don't have anything to do with any of those.
No, but it's difficult because they like to pull you in and get you embroiled, don't they? Anyway,
exactly. Just fill out this form and admit that you're not human.
Submit your application, sign here, Yes. Anyway, we are sovereign beings and I choose to not consent to all of that rubbish. And it's so lovely to talk with you, Clive. And I really look forward to the next time. And thanks for all your wisdom sharing, and may everyone be happy, healthy and well.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks for everything you're doing.
All right. Lots of love.
Lots of love.
Bye.